Ghost. Infestissumam.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Ghost LP, Infestissumam. Ghost, or Ghost BC, is a Swedish traditional doom metal slash heavy metal slash hard rock outfit, and this is their highly anticipated sophomore LP. Very anticipated by me and much of the metal community, since the hype died down from their very popular full-length debut, Opus Eponymous. For the most part, the band plays this old-school style of heavy metal that has a strong occult vibe. Blue Oyster Cult and Black Sabbath influences aside, Opus Eponymous had some characteristics that made it a pretty odd modern metal release. The album is incredibly hooky and melodic, and not in a very technical way or a way that is alienating to your average music listener. There are choruses all over this album that just bury themselves deep within the brain. Songs like Ritual, as well as Elizabeth. And in comparison with other frontmen out there these days, Ghost's vocalist is really one of the most agreeable metal singers out there. Not really having anything too sharp or abrasive or just aggressive about the way that he sings. His voice is incredibly friendly at times, kind of smooth. If there's anything that's sour about it, it can at times be eerie. The only thing that is overtly off-putting about Ghost's music are the strong, dark, and satanic messages that come through in the lyrics. And they display these things in a really theatrical way, not quite as torturous as some bands that seem to take these themes a bit more seriously. Despite all of these issues, this album took the metal world by storm. However, I have to admit, I'm not really enjoying the sophomore full-length as much. It is very clear that Ghost shoots for some really ambitious changes on this new LP, but not all of them add up to pros. For the most part, it's a lot of cons. For one, this record was recorded in a new studio, on a new record label with a brand new budget, and it definitely shows. And it shows up in ways that on paper would seem like a really good thing. Like, for one, there's all these huge, monstrous, gothic choruses that pop up occasionally on these tracks, bringing this huge sense of epicness. The songs overall on this LP are longer. There are more guitar solos, some more instrumental passages, more movements to the songs, more layers of guitar, more layers of background vocals. Synthesizers come through in a big way on a lot of these tracks. On this LP, no question, Ghost is sounding thicker, they're sounding more detailed, they're sounding more fleshed out. But all of these additions have created some really glaring issues in my eyes. It sort of distracted Ghost away from songwriting and hooks, which was the best thing Opus Eponymous had going for it, and instead they're turning their eyes toward things that aren't necessarily their strengths, like pulling together these sort of epic instrumental moments, which has never really been one of the best qualities of the band, mostly due to how stiff some of the guitar playing can be on their records. As a fan of Opus Eponymous, I can admittedly say that the 4-minute closing instrumental on the album is really one of the weakest points on the entire LP. So on a lot of these tracks, the band is showcasing this instrumental and compositional power that they don't particularly have, and on top of that, all of these added bells and whistles and sounds and choral vocals, they all add to this sense of hokiness that was always there with Ghost. They were close to being maybe a little over the edge with it, but like I said earlier, the songwriting and just that strong, eerie vibe that they had made up for it. Certainly there are spots on this LP where Ghost is able to take these choral vocals, this newfound detail, these longer song lengths, and pull them together with a really good tune. The song Body and Blood sticks out to me as a song like that. It's a very eerie ballad. Lots of guitar leads interjecting between chorus lines on this track. It's just so freaking dark and cultish, and successfully blends the sound that you typically expect from Ghost with some ideas that feel sort of psych rock inspired and progressive rock inspired. However, it's really the song Year Zero that I think is able to maintain the most focus with all of these new additions. It's a great song that gallops away valiantly with the this monstrous gothic chorus right at the start of the song. Great verses, great choruses, a really fantastic guitar solo toward the end of the track with some tubular bells chiming away epically. It's a huge ending with a really dreary outro right on the tail end of the track. It's just a full package deal. These awesome choral vocals also show up on the very melodic closing track on this album, another favorite on the LP for me. To me, these are just highlights on the album. Some of my favorite moments and really tracks that I'm happy are there because it gives me at least some level of faith that the next album will be better and maybe whatever issues I have with this LP will kind of be smoothed out by then. It's songs like Idolatrine, which really kind of get me cringing. The song is just littered with these inexplicably wimpy guitar riffs and schmaltzy organs. And I can't really put my finger on it, because the vocals sound roughly the same as they do on other tracks here, but on this particular song, I just feel like I'm listening to some really bad bar cover band. The vocals just don't really have that eerie vibe on this song that they do on others. They just sound kind of silly on this track. The song just kind of sounds like this really old, bad psych pop single that would have never, ever, ever seen the light of day if it had been written in the 60s. For me, this track really sort of steps over a line, and I just can't believe that the band didn't see it, especially with the terrible falsettos all over this song, and they sound even worse when they're harmonized. One of the lead singles off of this LP, Secular Haze, also crosses this line for sounding like it was conceived underneath a circus tent. These same obnoxious synths dampen a perfectly good vibe on the song Per Espera. The song Gigalulu is another track that just sounds like really bad, heavy, psychedelic rock that would have been better if the instruments were actually played with any guts, but they're not, and because they're not, and there's not really a particularly interesting song on this track, just sort of a guitar riff that's supposed to have some momentum maybe, it just falls flat and feels hokey. And I have to say I was pretty disappointed for the most part with the longest track on this LP, Goulet Zombie Queen. Sure, it's ambitious, the band is trying to write a longer song, something that's going to feel epic, but the slow melodic intro, without that strong compositional power there, the moment at which the song starts just feels kind of boring. And when the band finally kicks in and starts bringing some power to the song, the drums pop in, the guitars pop in, synthesizers pop in, beep, 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 beep. It just sounds like a really bad surf pop tune. Blending surf with metal is something that I've heard before in bands like Ghoul, for example, but even they maintain some level of badassness as they're doing it, whereas Ghost just sounds ridiculous. The huge climax at the end of this track is really the song's only redeeming value for me. Overall, I was just not feeling this LP, was really sort of let down by it. I feel like Ghost really let their budget and let their ambition blind them from just writing good tunes. For sure, all of these additional elements could have been added to the recipe to make it fantastic. It happens on this album with songs like Year Zero, but rarely do the stars all align in this way on these songs. There are moments where just all of these additional things block the song from even shining through, and there are moments where Ghost is really sort of trying to put forward a hard rockin' psychedelic rock influenced riff that just doesn't have any real balls on it. Overall, I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this album. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you like this album? Did you hate it? Why? Here's another opinion. Don't listen to this guy over here. I listened to this album. The vocals, wrecked. The guitars, wrecked. The big voices, wrecked. And the keyboards, wrecked. Anthony Fantano, Ghost, forever.